Hello, I'm Jacob from the Cedar Rapids Public Library, and today we're going to be discussing and making mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is a thick, creamy sauce predominantly made out of three ingredients: oil, egg yolks, and finally lemon juice or vinegar. It can usually be found in stores looking like this, and if you want to pick a fight with the FDA, this. But where did mayonnaise originally come from? Well, the answer is complicated. One origin story, which is repeated in countless secondary sources, says that the creamy condiment was born in 1756 after French forces under the command of Duc de Richelieu, this guy. After this guy successfully laid siege to Port Mahon on the Mediterranean island of Minorca, now a part of Spain, in the First European Battle of the 7 Years' War. The Duke's chef, upon learning the island lacked the cream he needed for a righteous victory sauce, invented an egg and oil dressing dubbed mayonnaise for the place of its birth. However, another version of this story claims the chef simply learned the recipe from the island's residents. So we have one story where the origins are alleged to be entirely French, and another entirely Spanish. As you can imagine, all it took was a couple of generations before the bickering started. Some French gourmets decided that mayonnaise couldn't possibly have originated in Spain because no fancy food had ever come from Mahon. Then seemingly arbitrarily decided that it must have been entirely French in origin, and that the name must have originally been Bayonnaise, after Bayonne, apparently a town famous across Europe for its succulent hams. Because, those things are very clearly related. Other advocates of the French origin suggested the name came from monieu, meaning to stir, or moyeu, an old French word for yolk. The Spanish maintained the Mahon origin, and the French had simply stolen the recipe and claimed it as their own. At one point in the 1920s, a prominent Madrid chef decided all of this French origin talk was entirely unacceptable. So much so that he printed a pamphlet calling on the entire country to refuse any usage of the sauce's French name of mayonnaise, and instead call it salsa mojanesa instead. And on it went up to the present day. And while the origins will likely forever remain a point of contention, there is no doubt that the French popularized the sauce. And throughout the intervening centuries, it would be exported all over the world. But what makes a mayonnaise and not, say, a salad dressing? Well, in America, law dictates that all commercial, real mayonnaise can only use egg as an emulsifier. Reduced fat mayonnaise is considered a salad dressing because it uses things like modified food starch and cellulose gel instead of egg. Now that we know the what and hypothetical wheres of mayonnaise, let's try making some ourselves. Here's the recipe we'll be using. If you are worried about using a raw egg, feel free to pasteurize it by putting it into a bowl of water and heating it to 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 minutes. Or just let the mayonnaise rest at room temperature for 4 to 8 hours before refrigerating in order to let the acid kill any bacteria that may exist. First, we are going to crack a room temperature egg into our mixing bowl. Then we are going to use an immersion blender and mix our egg for about 20 seconds. The reason we are using a whole egg as opposed to just the yolk like you would in a proper mayonnaise is because after 6 attempts, using a whole egg is the only way I could keep my mayo from breaking, suggesting that there is something in the whites of the eggs that helps keep the mayonnaise from breaking. Now, we are going to add a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, a tablespoon of white wine vinegar, a half teaspoon of kosher salt, and then we're going to blend it again for another 20 seconds. After that, it is time for the harrowing part. We are going to slowly, and I mean a few droplets at a time slowly, begin to pour in our vegetable oil as we continue to blend it. Any faster, and we all but guarantee our emulsion will break, causing our ingredients to separate and rendering our mayo into something that looks more like curdled milk than a condiment. Once you notice the mixture thickening a bit, it means you can be a little less cautious with how much oil you are adding. By that I mean you can feel safe turning it into a consistently thin stream if you're feeling brave. It can still break on you. Caution is the word of the day here. As you add the rest of your oil, you can see how it actually starts to look like mayonnaise, which after all that careful pouring is extremely satisfying. After a quick taste, I decide it needs a bit more sour, so I add a teaspoon of lemon juice and another dash of salt before giving it one final mix. Spread it across a piece of bread, and it's pretty good. I'd prefer it cold, but the flavors are right, and that extra hit of sour really makes the mayonnaise work. So there it is, a simple homemade mayonnaise. Okay, simple might be stretching it a bit. An unbroken homemade mayonnaise with simple ingredients? Yeah, that sounds right. Either way, there it is. Thanks for watching.